NFL draft concluded yesterday over a 3-day span, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 7 rounds in 3 days. And we're going to discuss, Devin, Tantor, and myself, who we thought were the biggest winners, losers, and best surprises along the way. I've created my own rating system. It's more like a college GPA rating system where it's based off of, hey, if you had 11 picks, that's 11 chances for positives or negatives versus the Miami Dolphins, who had 4 picks total over 7 rounds. So it could help you, it could hurt you. For me, here we go right now. I'm going to go ahead and say it. The highest scoring teams I had were the Ravens and the Steelers, even though I knew they would be consistent, and they were just that. But they weren't the ones that really raised my eyebrows and impressed me. I number 3 on my big board was the Houston Texans. And what better way to start off a draft than trading up and getting the best player in the draft in Will Anderson. Other big ones for me, the Jaguars and the Raiders were 2 of my others I was very blown away, impressed with. Phil, if we'll start with the positives for you, which team overall were the most impressed with or liked the most for the draft?
I agree with you on your 3. My top 3 were the Texans, the Jags, and the Raiders. The Texans just killed it with coming back up and grabbing Will Anderson, because he was probably the best player in the draft, and they got their quarterback that they wanted. Anytime a team says we have assets and we need talent, and then they just go out and do it, hey, I've got to go with that. And then followed closely behind, I like the Cardinals, the Giants, and the Seahawks. I thought all 3 of those teams did very, very well. I mean, the Cardinals had 9 picks. They filled their needs. They helped their offensive line, because their offensive line was abysmal last year. And they filled their needs there. They got an edge, and they got some cornerback play. So I thought the Cardinals did really well. The Giants added speed, which they needed at wide receiver. I think they got one of the best wide receivers in the draft way back there when they picked up Hyatt. And the Seahawks, they got a great cornerback there. They got some speed. I can't find fault in either one of those teams.
My top teams were the Texans, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Seattle Seahawks. I think the Texans, they blew it out the water, just trading up. They did a lot of different things. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they just got everything they needed to, and they got great value at almost every single one of their picks. And then Seattle, the only thing I can knock on their picks are grabbing 2 running backs, but they did pretty good. I think Seattle actually had the best one.
I think it would be remiss if we don't talk about it, because there was a running conversation, maybe even joke, by the end of day 2 about it. The Philadelphia Bulldogs with the new Georgia logo embedded into the eagle, wearing it as a chain. Here's my takeaway on that. You're getting NCAA championship level talent on now 5 picks over 2 years, and those are going to be 5 guaranteed starters. But if you look at the Eagles draft on the other rounds, not when a Georgia Bulldog was drafted, it was a type of pick. So if you balance performance, the Eagles still had a phenomenal draft, people.
If you're going to draft college players and you want winners, you're going to draft from Alabama and Georgia. What have they won the last 4 national championships? So I can't argue with the guys they took. And then they made a big trade with getting Swift over there to play running back. I have no problem with what Philadelphia did. They went after it, and they grabbed some value where they saw fit.
My big thing on it is you're drafting winners. They're coming in there. They know how to win. They know how to play. But I think it's more important to go down and get someone that fits your team's needs and your play style better. So I can't knock it, but personally, that's not the route I would go.
Let's transition to the other side, where my biggest oofs or losers of the draft, I gotta go down to the Colts, Packers, Jets, Patriots, and Chargers. All of those guys had picks where I think they fumbled some picks, either just wasted some picks or had better opportunity available at some picks and missed out on some things. Where Indianapolis, sorry Colts fans, you guys scored the lowest draft possible, or the lowest draft out of all 32 programs.
I don't agree.
For me personally. Devin, we'll start with you. Who do you think was on the losing side?
My bottom two teams are the 49ers and the Vikings. 49ers, they were doomed from the start. I mean, they had no premier picks. They started in the third round. And I mean, they got some all right players, but they didn't get anything that's going to stand out. So I had them at my bottom, which I expected them to be. And then the Vikings, I just feel at some of their picks they reached, and I don't think they got everything they could have gotten at those picks. So I don't like the Vikings draft class that well.
Bill?
I've got to back him up with the 49ers is the worst, the Vikings, and then the Commanders. The Commanders seem to reach on everything, and they just found their guys. Maybe it was blind, drunken darts that they were playing. I don't know. But, with the Vikings didn't draft anybody that is really going to help their team. I don't see it. I don't see them. They didn't get an offensive lineman that they sorely needed. Their offensive line is not too good. And they got one interior defensive lineman. I mean, the Vikings it seemed like they didn't have a plan.
I
The
think
49ers didn't have any draft choices in the first two rounds, so that automatically puts them back. So when they finally picked in the third round, they picked a freaking kicker. I mean, your second pick in the draft is a kicker in the third round. That immediately says that somebody's high. You can't do that.
I think the only highlight of the Vikings draft is I actually do like the USC receiver pretty well. I think
Jordan
he will
Addison.
Yeah, I think he'll complement Justin Jefferson pretty well. But besides that, I don't really like their draft.
No matter how much research and knowledge we have of these guys, we just don't know at the end of the day their teammate abilities, or is there some hidden secret that says stay away from this kid for whatever reason. That was some of it, but that would transitions to me to the biggest surprise, which is either the positive get or a negative get. And of all players, it's an Alabama player. I will give him credit. He started off in Tennessee, so that's why I still root for him. But Henry To'oTo'o, how do you fall all the way down to the compensatory picks of the fifth round when you're a 3-year All-American at Tennessee, Alabama, if not 4-year All-American? So congratulations. I'm just blown away. What am I missing there? That's my number one surprise of the draft. Phil, who was your biggest surprise of the draft?
No, that's who I was thinking, because I was hoping that the Commanders would pick him. And sitting there looking at this kid going, I've watched him play for 4 years. And what is going on? Why isn't anyone choosing him? What is the problem? I mean, is there something we don't know about? I mean, did he break his leg? I have no clue. And he was just falling out continuously. And I just couldn't believe that he was falling down so low. And the wide receiver, Hyatt, who I voted for the Blitnikoff Award, and he won it. And I can't believe he fell as low as he did. I thought he was a first-round choice. I would have taken him over many of those wide receivers in the first round. So I couldn't believe that he fell out of the first.
I have Jordan Addison as the number 1 wide receiver. I had Jalen Hyatt as the number 2 wide receiver. So yeah, Phil, I'm right there with you on Hyatt not going in first round either. What do I not know?
I was gonna say Hyatt also, but just not to go with Phil on this one. I'll pick one that's not too big of a surprise, but I'd say Darnell Washington. I thought he may go a little earlier than he did, but he still kind of fell. But it was mostly because of medical issues, but he's just so big and a great blocking tight end that I thought he may go a little earlier, because a lot of teams in this draft need a tight end.
Look, I've watched that guy play for a couple of years with Georgia, and there's another tight end on Georgia that's head and shoulders better than him. He's a great blocking tight end, but his hands are very suspect. And all the people in Georgia is going to get pissed off about that. But He's a tackle playing tight end, literally.
Last topic, real quick. The internet and at least the NFL Network made references to giving credibility to, of all teams, so I feel like we need to give them 30 seconds of love. The Detroit Lions and how they have created their own brand and respectability. And these guys are Dan Campbell type of guys. They scored high up on my draft board overall, but they didn't finish in the top 5. Devin, we'll start with you. Just your assessment of where the Lions overall ended with their draft.
I mean, I personally feel they gave up too much to trade all around, trade up, all that. But in retrospect, they got the guys they wanted. So, I mean, I can't really knock it until I see it on the field. They got all the people they wanted. And so they didn't go for people that were super high on other people's draft boards. They went for the people they wanted. So,
well, they took my favorite player in the draft, Jahmyr Gibbs. So they definitely get high grades on my board. 4 years ago, when I saw Jahmyr Gibbs take his first handoff at Georgia Tech, I went, holy crap, this kid can play. What's he doing here? That's nuts. And I turned to my son and said, he's going to transfer to a school that he can win at, and he's going to go in the first round of the draft. He's the second best player I've ever seen play college football personally. The first is Calvin Johnson, who went to the Detroit Lions. But Jahmyr Gibbs has so much raw talent that America hasn't seen because he played for 3 years in a hellhole at Georgia Tech under a complete moron coach that had no idea how to use an actual athlete and player. That when he went to Alabama, hey, he split time in the backfield there. Hey, no problem. But he was a first-round draft choice. People are going to be shocked. He can play special teams. He can return kicks. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He can run. If they turn him loose, they're going to be saying Barry Sanders who.
And the fact that they traded away Swift says something else, I think. All right, folks, give us your opinions of your draft. Who were your biggest winners, biggest losers? What do you agree with? What do you not agree with? If you want to see my entire big board, click on the link in the description, and it'll take you to a bit.ly link, and it'll take you out there, and you can let your hate rain down on me like everyone else. For the rest of you, coachandcrewshow.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.